Every disease that gives you superpowers explained in 6 minutes.
Polymelia. Polymelia is a rare genetic mutation that causes a person to be born with more than the usual limbs.
You know what? So long as you could actually control those limbs, that would actually be amazing. I know a lot of people would probably be freaked out at a dude with 4 arms, but just imagine the actual practicality of that. You can wash your dick and your face at the same time, bro. Your meat is getting washed in your face simultaneously. Matter of fact, you could wash your face and then use another arm to start, you know, going down there. A little rug and tug action going down there. And that's not even to say everything that you could carry at once, the help you could get from bench pressing. That's not to say how amazing it's gonna be if you into multiple, you know, partners in bed. I just feel like it would be amazing.
Though in most cases, the extra ones are deformed, shrunk, or completely.
You know what? I guess that's the trade-off, man. You could get an extra limb, but guess what? That limb doesn't even work. So you're basically just have another body part that's useless. It's just for show. Wow.
Useless. However, this wasn't the case for Deepak Paswan in India. He was born with 4 completely functional arms.
I'm not gonna lie, the placement of those arms have to be in the most unlucky place ever. Like, I would assume if I'm gonna have extra arms, it would be right below my actual arms. If I'm getting 2 in my chest, dude, I'm gonna feel like I got scammed, bro.
And 4 completely functional legs, which caused pilgrims to come to him from all over India and worship him, as Hindu religions often depict deities as having multiple limbs.
I'm not gonna tell someone how to worship, but I feel like that might be a lot on the kid, you know? I know everyone believes what they want to believe, but if what he has is a genetic mutation, then imagine being out the womb when you're, 5 years old, and then you see people already like bowing down at you. That might be a lot to take in.
Eventually, though, scientists figured out that the extra limbs came from a parasitic twin that hadn't developed in the womb and somehow fused with him. The extra limbs also weren't fully controlled by him, as they randomly moved, so they just decided to remove them, enabling him to live a normal life.
Okay, with a chainsaw? I'm also thinking about the other twin that was living in his body. Was he like just seeing the inside of his body for so long? Did the other half not load? Like he was 50%, like, you know what, here's your cutoff. Where's the rest of his body? Like, where was the other twin? Did 2 of the cells like finish and get to the egg? That's tough, bro.
Myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy.
We got the Incredible Hulk in real life.
This disease gives super strength, as affected people have over twice the usual muscle mass of the—
Why can't I get this, bruh? Instead, I have to work out. I'm not gonna lie, one of the biggest scams is going to the gym, being consistent, working out, getting bigger, right? And then realizing if you don't keep this up for the rest of your life, you're gonna lose those muscles. I used to think if I gain muscles, I just keep the muscles. The same way if you gain fat, you're just gonna keep the fat until you lose it. I thought that was gonna happen for muscle as well, but it doesn't. You actually become skinny again. So what was the whole point?
Average human. It's caused by a mutation of the MSTN gene, which is usually responsible for limiting muscle growth, but in this disease, it doesn't properly work. A famous example of this disease is Liam Hoekstra, who's
How old is he? That man does not look a day over 15.
been jacked since he was a kid and could do a pull-up at 8 months old, had a 6-pack at 3 years old, and could lift 3-kilogram dumbbells with his arm.
Okay, where is he right now? I'm not gonna lie. Yo, I struggle to get my first ever pull-up. If I seen a baby doing a pull-up at 8 months old, I'm gonna assume that there's something internally wrong with me. But I'm gonna just assume I'm just weak.
Arm fully extended at just 3 years old. It's one of the only diseases on this list with no known medical complication. Hyperthymestic.
Okay, that's good. Can I get that genetic mutation? Is there like, you know, like a little injection that I could take that will make it easier for me to build muscle? I need that one.
Syndrome. This disease enables people to remember huge amounts of relatively random information, basically giving them super memory. However,
okay, I just got the head extension with no good memory. So how does this make sense? And what is the clap back at this? Like, what are you losing?
there's a catch. They can't choose what they remember, so they might remember what they ate on a random day, but they might forget what they studied for their next exam.
Oh, nah, bruh. Imagine remembering everything you studied the night prior except the information that was actually on the test. Like, you know every other nonsense information, but the ones you do need to know you forgot. That's terrible.
Fact, some say that hyperthymestic individuals appear to have poorer than average memory when they actually actively try to remember something. They describe their memories as uncontrollable associations. For example, when they see a date, they see a vivid depiction of that day in their heads without hesitation or conscious effort. Unfortunately, this disease can make it difficult to sustain long-term relationships and can cause loneliness. People with—
Why? Is it because you never forget people's mistakes? Like, bro, remember that one time in 2013 when you stole my chocolate milk and I was starving that day and I was very thirsty and you just stole it from me? Yeah, you were fake. And I never forgot about that. Like, I could just tell people with this syndrome probably hold terrible grudges. They just never forget. And it's not even because they don't want to, it's because they can't.
Hyperthymesia also have difficulties letting go of difficult events or traumatic memories, which can stay with them for life. Fortunately, though, it is extraordinarily rare, with fewer than 100 people in the world having been diagnosed with it. Stone Man syndrome. Also known as fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, this disease allows people to regenerate damaged body parts with bones instead of the original damaged part. For example,
that's like an extreme version of the Michael Jackson syndrome. Instead of changing skin colors, you're changing to bones. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, if the bone is showing in my body, I feel like that's a little creepy.
If a person with this disease injured his biceps instead of new muscle tissue, he would grow bone tissue. It is the only known medical condition where one organ system changes into another, and it ultimately leaves sufferers immobilized as new bone replaces musculature and fuses with the existing skeleton, which is why it's called Stone Man syndrome.
I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like it would be amazing if you broke a bone, right? Because it's literally just a self-regenerative thing. But how am I gonna train my muscles if I know I'm not even training my muscles anymore? It's literally just bones. I don't even think you could go to the gym to exercise your bones, like, and make your bones bigger.
Fortunately, this disease is almost always deadly. The superficial bones aren't even removable, as if they're cut more will appear when it regenerates. Savant syndrome.
Damn! You can't even shave it off to make sure that it's like, you know, at least looking right. It'll just keep growing. So you better hope you never get injured because that muscle it's GG's.
This disorder, which is sometimes paired with autism and Asperger's, makes the patient extremely talented at a variety of tasks, such as calculations, drawing, painting, cartography, and much more. As an example of how incredible this might get, Stephen Wiltshire, a man who was diagnosed with Savant syndrome, was able to draw a precise map of London after flying over it just once. However, people with Savant syndrome are usually really good at one specific task, but lack social skills. Congenital
Yo, that trade-off is insane. Yo, you're a genius, but look, you're not gonna be able to talk to women ever in your life. You're cooked. I'm curious about how those two things are linked. Why is it that the trade-off for being a genius is the fact that you can't talk to people? That gotta be an extreme nerf. And plus, I wonder why is it that they can't talk to women?
Sensitivity to pain. An estimated 1 in every 25,000 people suffers from this genetic condition, which completely shuts off the pain signaling pathways, as patients have a mutation of this gene, which is supposed to develop pain-sensing nerve cells. People with it usually can't know or understand what pain.
You know what? I wouldn't mind this at all, especially if it's pain on the outside. But if I can't recognize pain that's happening to me on the inside, that's when it's dangerous. Because I feel like a lot of things could grow and become worse if you don't actually feel it, which will then lead on to bigger consequences. Like, imagine if you can't feel your tooth decaying or like a cavity growing, and it's like, oh, my teeth feel normal. And then later on, it's like, oh, your teeth are messed up, and you gotta like get them just removed. I feel like you need to feel pain to some degree.
Feels like or really is, even though they can feel emotional pain or touch. Even though this might seem amazing, it's important to note that pain is one of the most important survival tools, and people with this condition usually die in their childhood as they injure themselves without knowing it. For some reason, there's a village in Sweden called Vittangi, which has an out-of-the-order amount of people suffering from this disease. Tetrachromacy.
Yo, you better hope you don't fight them in a war. Imagine a whole army with CIP. You could just spray bullets at them, but in their head, they're like, yeah, I could keep going. I could keep going. Nah, bro, it ain't even nothing. At that point, they're no different than a zombie. They're just gonna keep going until they actually meet their demise. I don't know. I feel like it's worth the trade-off if it's external pain and not internal.
If you tried to imagine a new color, you wouldn't be able to. Your brain would just glitch. People with tetrachromacy, however, don't have to imagine new colors because they actually see them. Humans' eyes have 3 types of cone cells, which enable us to see a part of the light spectrum, while some other animals, especially birds, fishes, and reptiles, have 4. This means that the organism may see wavelengths beyond those of a typical human's vision, and may be able to distinguish between colors that, to a normal human,
Yo, we need a new iOS update. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm tired of seeing the same colors. I'm tired of seeing the same Crayola crayons. Like, I need actual new colors. Like, what if people actually look much different, but because we can't see how they look due to our visible spectrum, it's like, damn, like, we're all boring. I need another color, man. I feel like these colors don't express my interest enough.
appear to be identical. In humans, tetrachromacy is extremely rare, to the point that some don't even believe it exists. But there was one account where a woman was found to have an additional cone type, which was a sort of intermediate between M and L. Trichodento osseous syndrome. This disease, which affects only a couple thousand people worldwide, basically gives people indestructible and super dense bones, so much so that they've reportedly been able to break baseball bats and withstand car crashes. This happens because they have a mutation in the DLX3 gene, which works on bone density. However, there are some bad drawbacks, such as having teeth that break painfully and easily, having brittle nails.
Like, that is so random, bro. Like, you could be amazing at one thing, and then, like, the trade-off is, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like how you have a full set of hair. Let's get that off. Yeah, like, half of your hair is gonna go by the age of 18. Let's do that. Why can't I enjoy the benefits of having this superpower and being good? Fragile teeth, like the fact that we're even programmed to all have good teeth for the most part is insane.
And having dry, curly, and flaky hair. As a
Yo, okay, I just used that as an example, and the fact that that's actually a drawback is insane, bro. What's going on? You know what? Forget these superpowers. I don't even want to know more.
Fun fact, it's being studied as a potential cure for osteoporosis, which affects the elderly by increasing their chances of breaking their bones, sometimes causing death. Hyperlexia. If a kid between the age of 2 and 4 years old is able to read everything perfectly, and he's obsessed by numbers or letters, he might have hyperlexia, which is
okay, so I can't be happy if my child is able to read at an early age. You're telling me I should actually be concerned he could actually read? I don't know how to feel about this now.
Syndrome characterized by a child's precocious ability to read. The problem with this, however, is that it's basically fake reading, as they're able to say out loud the words on a piece of paper, but they're unable to understand what they're reading. The cause is still unknown, but it's thought that it has a certain overlap with autism, with some claiming that about 84% of hyperlexic kids suffer from autism as well.
So you can't even be a genius without a drawback, bro. It's insane that someone could be extremely smart, but you still have to question it if they have some sort of disability.
Vampire syndrome.
Huh? Okay, you know what? Let me find out there's a group select of people that actually need human blood to survive. That is not a superpower, bro.
Also known as hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia, it gives affected people pointed teeth and pale skin, and they're usually very thin, with eyes outlined with dark circles and with no hair. While looking like
Alright, so you basically look like a vampire. That's what I'm getting at it. Okay, you don't need to have the abilities of a vampire.
Vampire might sound cool to some. People with this disease have to constantly check their temperature and stay away from the sun, as they don't have sweat glands that can keep their internal temperature stable when it
So you don't even get the ability to live forever, but you can't even be outside in the sun. Wow.
gets hotter. As an example, famous actor Michael Berryman has this disorder.
You know what? I kind of see it. I will say he does have a huge cranium on him, but I do see the pointy ears. Hey, and he looks like he lived a long time, so maybe he is a vampire. Anyway, YouTube, let me know what y'all think. Would y'all want any of these superpower diseases, or do y'all feel like the drawback is just not worth it? Let me know if you guys know anybody with any of these diseases, and let me know how they function, or if they like their disease. Make sure you guys join us on Twitch. Make sure you guys subscribe, check out the gaming channel, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. Road to 1 million subs. Boxer for life. Love y'all, and peace.